While I was drawing this, I was thinking about my current self and my future self. What I mean is, who are you? You are you, and you've always been you. That's yourself. And things have changed over time, but you're still the same person. But hang on a minute. Do you still look the same as you did 10 years ago? Do you have the same interests? Do you feel the same you did 10 years ago? So are you still you, or are you a collective of yourselves? It's like Red Dwarf, greatest sci-fi TV series of all time. Better than Star Trek. It's been going for as long as I've been around, and it's changed so much since the first series. Like, every single series has a completely different feel to the last, but it's still the same show. It's still Red Dwarf. And people have their favourite series, like Series 5 was a bit dodgy, Series 6 was amazing, Series 8 was hilarious. Like, everyone has their own personal best. And that's how you are. You're basically a series of yourselves. It's like the ship of Theseus. Theseus was the founder of Athens in ancient Greece. And they made his ship that he used as a kind of memorial. And every year they would take it out on a pilgrimage. But over the years, they had to keep replacing the parts of the ship because it was wearing down. And then after a couple hundred years, everything had been completely replaced. And they asked, is this still the same ship? And then look at you, your cells in your body are constantly being replaced. Even your memories change over time. Sometimes you just construct your own memories, they're completely made up, but to you, that feels like yourself having that memory, doing that thing. And there are multiple versions of yourself. Like, my girlfriend is Peruvian, and we've lived together in Peru for almost 10 years. And when I speak to my friends back home in England, the black country accent comes out a bit thicker, and I start talking in slang without even realising it and everything. And she can barely understand a word that I'm saying. So because I haven't seen them in so long, I revert back to my old self. And what does that even mean, my old self? Because I've always been myself. It's like, going back to Red Dwarf, there's this one episode where they meet their future selves, and they're all disappointed because in the future, they're all amoral, self-serving scum with sofa-sized butts and ridiculous toupees. And the future versions are disappointed because they're looking back at their old selves as stuck-up, pompous prigs. And so there comes a point where you don't even recognize your past self or your future self. They're almost like different people. Actually, I was reading about this study recently. So your brain shows a certain pattern of activity when you're distinguishing between yourself and somebody else. And they put a bunch of people in an MRI scanner and asked them to think about themselves now and themselves in the future, and also a different person in the future. And they found that the brain activity when they thought about their future selves looked more like the pattern that comes when they were thinking about anyone else. So we actually do see our future selves as completely different people. And the crazy thing is, we also see people we're close to as more a part of ourselves than we do our future selves. So you're more likely to want to help a friend with something in the future than to help yourself, because your friend is a part of you and your identity now. However, your future self doesn't even exist. So you naturally just want to do anything to help your friend, In the moment, you want to do things that satisfy your current self, because the future self it feels like a complete stranger. That person is not you. So you'd rather have the immediate satisfaction and please your current self. Imagine if you actually met yourself in the future, or you met yourself from the future, and you didn't even like them as a person. The worst part about it is you would know that they are the way that they are because of the things that you did in the present, or the things that you're currently doing, the bad habits you've got and whatever. So I wonder how all this relates to visualization techniques. You know how a lot of really successful people will say, like, I knew I would get here because I saw it, I visualized it, I dreamed about this moment. And in quantum physics, there are already multiple versions of you in the future. So if you could peer into the future using your imagination, bring that future self to you, Could you have a conversation with it? I think that would actually be a really good practice. If you close your eyes and imagine yourself having a conversation with your future self every day, you would start to feel closer to them. They would be almost like a friend. And therefore, you'd be more likely to commit to things that would benefit them because they'd feel less like a stranger. I've had this mantra going around in my head a lot recently. Plan ahead, live now. And what that means to me is it's much easier to be present when I've already planned ahead, because there are less surprises and there's just less things for me to procrastinate on because I know exactly what I got to do. And the trick is you have to find the sweet spot, the perfect balance between fully embracing the moment and planning for the future. Because if you're too focused on the present, the future will inevitably come and bite you in the arse.